The Borderlands franchise has a long history of providing amazing add-on content, so I decided to make a tier list ranking every add-on we've had from Borderlands 1 all the way through Wonderlands. So let's get started. So there are 40 total pieces of content here that we're going to rank, S tier being the best of the bunch, F tier being, oh my god, why did they make this? Now I figured what we'd do is I would go ahead and start off with Wonderlands. That's the newest installment in the franchise, and most of you probably know by now how I feel about the add-on content for that, but in my opinion, almost every single one of these is going to go into this F tier. Now, these two were okay, but there's just not that much content. However, I actually liked Molten Mirrors. I thought that one was definitely worth playing. And the Shattering Spectre Glass, I liked it, but the problem is it's got some reused assets. The boss arena at the end is nice. I actually like the boss fights on most of these, but in terms of just like content, there's not a whole lot there. They feel pretty shallow. You do get some new gear with each thing, and each one of those does get added into the chaos chambers at the end, but to me this just wasn't what we want for content. All right, moving on now to Borderlands 1, we got Moxxi's Underdome Riot. That's an F tier. That I absolutely hated the Underdome Riot. It was like, it felt like the most painful content ever to exist to me. And keep this in mind when you watch this video. Every one of these rankings is going to be based on how I interpret these things. You might have a completely different point of view on these things, and that's fine. This tier maker exists. I made it. You can go use it. Make your own tier list. Have fun. All right, moving on. Let's go ahead and do the Robo Revolution. That one's a hard one to say for me for some reason. I like the Robo Revolution. I thought there was some really funny stuff in there, but in terms of like, you know, in-game content added to it and like replayability, to me that's still like a C tier, but I will put it ahead of Molten Mirrors for what that's worth. Moxxi's Underdome Riot does go behind all of the Wonderlands content, by the way. It's definitely, to me, it's possibly the worst piece of content we've ever had. All right, up next, let's see, the Zombie Island of Dr. Ned. I know a lot of people love the Zombie Island of Dr. Ned. I'm not one of those people. I thought it was funny at times. It, to me, felt more annoying than anything. I'm still gonna put it in C rank, even though it's not my favorite content, and I would rather play Molten Mirrors. So it goes behind Molten Mirrors for me. Up next, the Armory of General Knox. Now, this one is, in my opinion, definitely the best of the bunch for Borderlands 1. It introduced the raid boss concept with Cromarax. It also gave us the Armory of General Knox. General Knox himself is hilarious. I liked it, but you do have to drive across the map over again. So that brings the rating down for me. This would be a solid A tier DLC if the travel system was better in Borderlands 1. Limitations of the time period, I'm sure, but B tier for me because of that. All right, now on to Borderlands 2, the Big Daddy. Let's start this one just by going in order of the content as it was released. So up first, we've got Captain Scarlet. Now, Captain Scarlet to me was just almost a perfect all-around DLC. I have nothing bad at all to say about Captain Scarlet DLC. I love the gear that you got from it. I loved Captain Scarlet as a character. Thought the story was good. Thought that the in-game grind on that was decent because you had Hyperius, and unfortunately you also had Master G, which I didn't like, but I understand that some people do, like two people, but that's okay because Hyperius was awesome. So I give this one a solid A ranking. I might move that up to S. I don't know. It's definitely an A at the very least. I'm putting it in S. You know what? I loved it. I love that DLC. It goes S tier for me. All right, up next is the Campaign of Carnage, Mr. Torg, one of my favorite characters in the entire Borderlands franchise. Mr. Torg is awesome. I love the banter in this one. I love the content in this one. You can get things like the Cobra. You've also got Pirate Pete added in with this one. I really like this DLC a lot. I don't like it enough to make it an S tier, but it is definitely a solid A tier for me. Up next, Hammerlock's Big Game Hunt. Sucks. I hate it. There's not much good to say about this. I will put it ahead of Moxxi's Underdome. I'll put it ahead of all the Wonderlands content too. But all things considered, the Big Game Hunt, there was so much potential for that. It does introduce both Veracitus and Dexidius, but it also gives us a hidden enemy in Triple O. The problem is none of that content is fun, and it's a ton of just like empty map. and I don't know, it just seemed like by that point there should have been so much more they could have done with it, but it's the best of the F tier so far. And then there was the Assault on Dragon Keep. Now this one's a no-brainer. That's an S tier. It's a god tier story, great gear included in that. There are some annoying enemies to deal with. The dragon fight it's fun, but it's glitched as well. Like if you shoot them with slag while they're in the air, then you can't slag them. That kind of sucks. It's just a great DLC, just all around amazing DLC. All right, and then we got the headhunters for Borderlands 2. Let's start off with Marcus Mercenary Day. Marcus Mercenary Day, to me, for what it is a small piece of content, but it is an S tier piece of content, even though it's small. Does that make sense to you guys? I'm not ranking it higher than Mr. Torgue's Campaign of Carnage in terms of like I think it's worth more money or something like that, but in terms of what it is, knowing that it's a headhunter, knowing that you know only paid $3 for this at launch, you get S tier quality content from it. Does that make sense? I just want to make sure people understand my logic for putting it in S tier, okay, before we move on. Now for some stupid reason I did put this in here twice so I'll just go ahead and put it here on this line as well. Up next, we got the Bloody Harvest, TK's Bloody Harvest from Borderlands 2. Now, this one was a lot of fun as well, and it inspired the Bloody Harvest for Borderlands 3 as well. All things considered, I feel like this one's a solid, again, $3 content. I feel like it's a solid high C, low B for me on that one. I like the content. It does add another wave that you can farm chubby or tubby enemies. You also have Clark the Combustible, but Clark drops the Pyrophobia, so that's kind of dumb. Solid high C for me on that one. All right, up next, the Wattle Gobbler, aka Grandma Torgue's DLC. Now, the Wattle Gobbler, there's things that I like about the Wattle Gobbler, and then there's things that I absolutely hate about the Wattle Gobbler. All things considered, it's a low C from me. It's almost an F, but it does have some pretty good like ways that you can farm some treasure, but it's definitely the lowest of the low C's. If there was a D category, which honestly I probably should have made other categories here, but this would be a D if there was a D. D nuts. All right, we're gonna actually treat this other Mercenary Day as the Son of Kromrax Headhunter pack because I forgot to include an image for that. So that's what this is going to be, okay? This one right here is the Son of Kromrax DLC. Think of it that way. And that one I give a solid A to, okay? So I don't want there to be any confusion. I didn't get confused and rank this in two different spots. This would be the Son of Kromrax, which I think is a beautiful looking DLC. I like the boss fight at the end. Then we've got Moxie's Wedding Day Massacre. This one's terrible. I hate this one. There's not a whole lot good I can say about this one. It's honestly, in my opinion, worse than the worst of the Wonderlands content for me. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. You guys tell me what you think in the comments below. Again, it's a $3 piece of content. These are more expensive, but I do feel like I get more out of these than I do out of the Wedding Day Massacre. Now let's talk about the Collector's Edition, the Creature Slaughter Dome, and the upgrade packs. Now let's start off with the Collector's Edition. I think the Collector's Edition is really good. It included Gage the Necromancer, it included the Golden Guns and the Vault Hunter Relic. For me, that's a solid B piece of content. It's very good. The things outside of Gage aren't real like game changers. The Vault Hunter Relic could be good, especially if you're farming for a Cobra. So for me, that's a B. Now the Creature Slaughter Dome, I think, is a really good piece of content. The only problem is you cannot repeat it on a character, and that kind of sucks. For me, I'm gonna give that like middle of the pack C. I feel like actually, yeah, I'm gonna rate it above the Wattle Gobbler, but below Dr. Ned, and I feel like that's a pretty good spot for the Slaughter Dome. If you could repeat it, I would probably rank it a bit higher. All right, now that we have the Ultimate Upgrade Pack one, took the game from level 50 to level 61. I thought that was fine, but I also felt like it truly wasn't really necessary. So that one for me is a C piece of content, like very low C, high F in this case. And then Upgrade Pack 2, which added Digistruct Peak. I think that also, didn't that add the Pearl Essence? I'm not entirely sure on that. I'm going to give that one a middle of the pack C. Again, the upgrade packs on Borderlands 2 you paid for, so I didn't like that. They were for $5 a piece, I think they were. Yeah, $4.99 for this one, $4.99 for this one. Borderlands 3 did not charge you to have the level cap increases, but they unfortunately did them in small quantities as well. So hopefully they learned from these mistakes for both of these things. I didn't like Digistruct Peak at all. So if you did and you want to rank it higher, go for it. Up next, we got the Psycho Krieg content. Now, I love Psycho Krieg. I think Krieg is awesome. This content was $10 and is for one playable character, which I think was absolutely worth it. So I'm putting it, actually, I'm going to put it ahead of the the Son of Kralmarax. Again, remember, this is Son of Kralmarax. Don't get confused. I'm going to put it ahead of Son of Kralmarax. I absolutely love that content. And then same thing with Gage the Necromancer. It was $10, or if you pre-ordered the game, she was included as a pre-order bonus. So keep that in mind. They definitely gave you options to get her. And then there was the Commander Lilith fight for Sanctuary. Now, I think the story on this was very good. I think this was a nice lead in from Borderlands 2 to Borderlands 3. It gave us some closure with Scooter. It had a tubby farm. It had a midget farm. It had a way that you could literally stop playing at level 80. So it increased the level cap from 72 to 80, and it changed the OP level cap from OP 8 to OP 10. Now, what I liked about this a lot was that you no longer needed to go into OP levels in order to get the Pearlescence. All the Pearlescence were available to you, even if you just stopped at level 80 and never touched OP levels. So for that alone, this is an A tier piece of content for me. I would give this an S tier. Actually, you know what I am? I'm giving it an S tier. I think it's possibly the second best piece of content, maybe third best piece of content in Borderlands 2. Yeah. You know what? I'm putting it ahead of Scarlet. Sue me. All right, on to the pre-sequel. Now, there's no mystery here. The pre-sequel lacked for some content for sure. It had things like the Holodome Shock Drop Slaughter Pit. This was a F-tier piece of content. It's basically like Moxie's Underdome Riot. You do at least get some decent gear from it, but it's not fun at all. This is the Holodome, yeah. And then you have the Shock Drop Slaughter Challenge map. Yeah, that can go right there too. Both of these I just did not enjoy at all, but they're about to make up for it with the handsome doppelganger. In my opinion, this is one of the best characters that I've ever played in the entire franchise. And for me, it goes in S tier. I think this character was perfectly designed. I thought the character was fun to play as. You got some great banter, so you got more handsome Jack out of it. And honestly, I put that ahead of Marcus's Mercenary DLC. Now, Aurelia, on the other hand, I didn't like as much. However, I did recognize that it was very creative in terms of the skill tree. I hated that you had to basically spec into a bunch of points in order to like get any use out of her right hand tree, and it would be like points that were like essentially co-op points. So for me, this is a C tier character, but I do like it more than the Slaughter map. So behind Dr. Ned and ahead of the Slaughter map for me for Aurelia. All right, and now we're on to Borderlands 3. Now, Borderlands 3 started off strong with the handsome jackpot. I thought this DLC was great. It had a really good story, had some really good gear. It introduced the See and Dead class mod and the stack bot for Zane and Flak respectively. Both of those are like S tier class mods for both of them. There's some decent guns in there. Also, the Heartbreaker makes a return, and it is awesome now. So for me, this is a very good DLC. I would put it, you know what? I'm going to put it ahead of General Knox just because I hate to drive so much in General Knox. Again, if it wasn't for that driving, this thing would be higher, but I like the jackpot more than I like General Knox. DLC 2 for Borderlands 3 was Guns, Love, and Tentacles. Now this one, I thought that this DLC was good, but it's definitely not my favorite in Borderlands 3, and I actually would prefer to play General Knox over playing Guns, Love, and Tentacles. No, I wouldn't. I'm kidding. I would definitely prefer Guns, Love, and Tentacles over General Knox, but again, it's a solid B. All right, then there's the third DLC, The Bounty of Blood. Now, let me preface this. I grew up watching Westerns. I grew up watching Kung Fu and samurai movies. This basically has everything that I ever wanted in a piece of content, and I absolutely love it. So for me, this is an S tier piece of content. You got some amazing gear, you got a good story, you got a good villain. And then our fourth DLC was the Psycho Krieg and Fantastic Foster Clock. Now this was made entirely during the pandemic, so it didn't have all the bells and whistles that maybe it could have, would have, should have had. Arguably one of the better stories from any of the DLCs that we've ever had. That said, I'm not a story guy. I don't really care too much about story, and for me, this content is just not that great. I will put it ahead of the collector's edition. Actually, the collector's edition, I feel like should probably be a high C now that I think about it. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna put it as a high C. I didn't like it enough that I would want to keep playing it over and over again. Now let's talk about the designer's cut and the director's cut. Now the designer's cut was the arms race DLC plus the bonus skill trees. Now I think that obviously if you're a flak main, you probably don't like the bonus skill tree so much. I thought arms race was a nice change of pace piece of content. For me, this is probably a high C. I'm gonna go with high C. I'm gonna put it probably, man, do I want to put it before or after Bloody? I'm gonna put it ahead of Bloody Harvest. There's more to do. There's awesome gear in there, like the plasma coil, boogeyman, the toboggan. You know what? And the more I think about it, the more I think that belongs in B, just because of the gear that you can get from that. Arms race, I think, is fun. The change of pace, I know why people don't like it, but for me, it's fun and I like it. And then there's the director's cut. This adds in a double raid boss fight. So for all those people who are like, there's no challenging content, oh yeah, go in there without guardian rank turned on. Let's see how you do. I think the designer's cut and the director's cut both are very good. I don't think either of them are great. The director's cut does add some really good story content. I'm gonna put it ahead of General Knox because you got the Seer fight in there. You got some pretty decent gear that's added with that. I liked it. I liked it a lot. All right, then you got the bonus content that was added as permanent things. The Broken Hearts Day. This is not good. It doesn't really add anything. You just get to shoot hearts, and then you get the wedding invitation and the polyamorous. It's the worst of the worst. Honestly, that it doesn't get any worse than that. But what makes up for it is the cartels. The Revenge of the Cartels is just perfection. Honestly, the Revenge of the Cartels is one of the best pieces of content that you can ever own. And guess what? It's free. It's free for everybody. It's hard to argue with that, but then again, Broken Hearts Day is free and it's terrible, so it just goes at the bottom. But yeah, cartels, amazing gear. I love the boss fight. They made the boss into a raid boss. If you're on Mayhem 10, Mayhem 11, that boss fight is going to be tough as hell, and it's going to be worth it because he drops some amazing loot. And same goes for the Bloody Harvest. Now, the only bad thing about the Bloody Harvest in Borderlands 3 is that unfortunately, the gear at the end is not that great. You do have the Fearmonger, which is a decent shotgun, and you do have the Gassed Call, which is top tier grenade, but the other gear that you can get from that is terrible. Again, just like Joey Ultraviolet in the Revenge of the Cartels, this boss has been turned into a raid boss at the end. Now, the boss fight mechanics of it are amazing, and I absolutely love that. But for me, this one has to go probably at low B tier. All right, now you got, oh, did I miss? I forgot the Claptastic Voyage. How did I forget that? That is S tier. I don't know how I forgot to do this, but the Claptastic Voyage for me is I'm going to put it at number 1. Honestly, I feel like that is the best piece of content we've ever had. If you want to combine story, gameplay, gear additions, everything is just perfect. You also have Handsome Jack included in there. You got some great stuff with Claptrap. There's some really good emotional moments in there. I thought the ending was great because it actually bridged the gap from the pre-sequel to Borderlands 2. That ending was perfection. Everything about this DLC is god tier, just like Assault on Dragon Keep and just like Bounty of Blood. All right, then we have the 2 takedowns that were added in Borderlands 3. I'm going to start with the Guardian takedown, then we'll finish with the Malawan takedown. The Guardian takedown, there's some things that I love about this. I love the Anathema fight. I know a lot of people don't because of all the immune phases. I get that. I hate the crystals phases. I feel like those should have been reworked. I feel like there should have been checkpoints. This isn't Destiny. Give us some checkpoints. You know what I'm saying? But all that said, I feel like this is better than the Bloody Harvest for Borderlands 2. Not as good as Fuster Cluck in terms of what you get for it, but it is free content, so keep that in mind. But for me, it's maybe a high C. And then there's the takedown of the Malawan Black Site. It does not get any better for in-game content than this. Honestly, every single boss fight that you run into in that is perfect. The mobbing is perfect. The pacing is perfect. The only thing that sucks is right now, if you go too close to vending machines, right before you've had to fight the Valkyries, you can crash your game. And I don't know why they don't like push out a patch to fix that. That literally ruins the fun while you're playing. So you basically have to stay away from vending machines in that, which if you're not Moe's, can be a problem. Otherwise, this would be like up here. This would be right here, but instead I'm going to have to put it behind Bounty of Blood. Actually, I'm going to put it behind Revenge of the Cartels. I know people are going to hate me for this, but at least Revenge of the Cartels doesn't crash my game. That's my rankings, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know how you would rank them, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day.